Leatherwing Bat was the first work that Trey made for the full-time Trey McIntyre Project. So we had been what I call TMP 1.0, the summer touring company for 2005, 6, and 7, and Trey had made a new work every summer. And it was such an interesting experience to come back as TMP 2.0, the full-time company, and return to White Oak Plantation, where we had spent every summer with practically a new group of dancers. It was just Jason and I, and Virginia and I, who were returning from the summer company. So it was this new group, this new energy that we didn't really know. So many unknowns when this new version of TMP was launched. And Trey had decided that he wanted to make a work to the Peter, Paul and Mommy album by Peter, Paul and Mary, which was a really important piece of music in his childhood and his upbringing. An album that he said he would listen to every day when he'd come home from school. And there's a lot of songs on the album that like Puff the Magic Dragon, and so a lot of people know Going to the Zoo, but there were so many beautiful songs on that album that I personally had not been as familiar with. As in most of Trey's ballets, I find there's not so much a narrative, but an emotional narrative. There's not necessarily a protagonist, but there are characters that are referenced. But sometimes I feel like the character is not even represented by one dancer, but maybe multiple dancers. And the emotional narrative comes to you from the multiple sort of storylines that are unfolding. And this work, Leatherwing Bat, I find to be more true of that type of dance making for Trey than any other. And it's something that I hear a lot from the audience is the same thing. They find themselves suddenly crying and don't know why. Why did it affect him? And I think that really speaks to the power of what Trey is capable of and what this company is capable of in carrying out that vision and carrying out that piece of art. Is it doesn't require dumbing it down. It doesn't require being completely literal with what you're doing, which I think is often the case of bad choreography and bad dance in the world right now. Is it can either be too literal or it can be too vague or too conceptual, and you really don't get a sense of anything. And this work, it just gives you such a complete feeling. And I think there's an inherent sadness in this work that has to do with who you were before and who you are now, that also kind of resonates. Looking at the character that I portray in Leatherwing Bat, sort of being both a youth and a father figure, definitely resonates with the role I also have in Trey McIntyre Project of being the executive director and leader, but also still being a dancer, which dancers have to be brave and courageous, and dancers have to be very independent and mature, but dancers also get to be childlike at times because we have to physicalize, and a lot of that is letting go. We can't come to every scenario as this sort of with a wizened approach. You have to let go and start over every day. So to be a dancer is, in essence, to sort of have a childlike naivete about your daily process, because you can't start each day picking up where you left off. You have to begin again. In the audience at the premiere at Jacob's Pillow was Peter Yarrow of Peter, Paul and Mary, and an artist that I think many people really look up to, and his music obviously played a huge role in the work. And just his response to the work, artist to artist, he was so moved. And he said something along the lines to Trey of, it's not at all the ballet he would have created, but that's what he loved so much about it. It was such a different perspective on the same oeuvre of music that obviously Peter Yarrow knows incredibly well because he wrote the songs and he's been singing them his entire life. And to see them reflected in such a different way was such an incredible experience for him. And the plan, I believe, was just to tour Leatherwing Bat for the first 6 months of the season. And then in 2009, we were coming back with a new repertoire. And I don't remember exactly, but I think we had another ballet planned. We were anticipating coming back the second half of the year with a completely different rep, and we determined that Leatherwing Bat was so valuable to the company and had become such sort of a flagship work for the company, really resonating and speaking to the values of what we were and who we are as an organization and who Trey is as an artist, that we left it in a repertoire for the entire first full year. So it's the work that we performed at our first international tours to Budapest and Santo Domingo. It's the work that we performed at our New York debut at the Joyce. It's the work that we performed at the company debut at the Pillow. It's the work that we performed all around the world and all around the United States, because I think it's so well represented who Trey is and was as an artist at that time. And even though 3 years is not that long in the life of a dance company, the life of a dancer, it's a long time away. So it's definitely the right time for this work to return, for the world to see it again, but I think also more importantly for the company to experience again.